It's Friday, May 19. In the headlines in local news, Prime Minister Andrew Holness addresses concerns about increased members of parliament salaries. In business news, we bring you part 2 of the 138 student living feature. Regionally, Grenada anticipates new minimum wage for 2024. Internationally, Ukraine casts shadow over G7 summit in Japan. And in sports, Windies women's travel arrangements upgraded in a move to have them aligned with their male counterparts. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says members of the political directorate will have to improve their performance as more Jamaicans will be interested in representational politics. His statement follows the recently announced substantial salary increase for the political directorate. The increase was calculated under the new public sector compensation regime. The Prime Minister was speaking at a floral tribute ceremony to mark the 100th anniversary of the late former Prime Minister Hugh Lawson Shearer's birth on May 18 at the National Heroes Park. Minister of Finance and the Public Service Dr. Nigel Clark has said the government is amenable to the suggestion of an increase in the income tax threshold. The call came from Caribbean Policy Research Institute, Capri. The current income tax threshold is $1.5 million following an increase in 2017. Capri has proposed a new threshold of $2.2 million, meaning workers would only pay tax on income greater than that figure.
Which has moved a segment of the population, which 7 years ago, we decided to relieve from the tax burden, and only because of inflation, not because of a policy change, they have now been brought into the income tax burden. So to compensate for that loss since 2017, we recommend using part of the fiscal dividend from falling debt levels, from the fiscal responsibility that the country has exercised now for nearly 10 years, using part of that dividend to raise the income tax threshold to $2.2 million.
Dr. Clark said the government is, quote, in line with the thinking, end quote, shared by the Research Institute, but notes that the necessary due diligence will have to be done to determine the implications of any increase. Children in need of mental health support are urged to make use of the Safe Spot helpline at 888-723-3776. That's 888-723-3776. The call comes from Children's Advocate Diane Gordon Harrison, as she notes data from the National Child and Teen Helpline show a worrying mental health condition among some Jamaican children. Addressing a press conference this week, Mrs. Gordon Harrison said for the period January to December 2022, the Safe Spot helpline received 2,345 interactions from children as young as 3 years old. Of this number, 447 were considered as having undisclosed mental health issues. 133 were from children who experienced suicidal ideations or attempted suicide, and 111 were children who were affected by fear and anxiety. 42% of the overall interactions with Safe Spot reside in Kingston and St. Andrew, while 23% indicated they live in St. Catherine. A breakdown of the data showed that from across all parishes, a majority of the contacts identified as females. Portland is the only parish that indicated that more boys were making reports. Safe Spot is a dedicated toll-free line that is available 24 hours daily, 7 days per week, and is staffed by intake officers, counselors, and counseling psychologists. It provides counseling to children and teenagers who require mental, emotional, and social well-being assistance. In the business report with Danita Rodney, we continue our look at 138 Student Living. The company provides accommodations in halls of residence for students and academic professionals at the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies and the University of Technology. In part 2 of this feature, we hear more about the company and its future plans.
Welcome to the Business Report. I'm Danita Rodney. This week we conclude our feature on 138 Student Living.
138 Student Living provides accommodations on the University of the West Indies Mona campus in a public-private partnership agreement with the UWI. It has registered a profit for the past 4 years, even during the pandemic. But what do its residents think about their digs? Let's hear from student representative Crystal Witter.
My experience on the George Lane Hall has been a great one. I've thoroughly enjoyed interacting with my different friends, getting to know people that I wouldn't think I would know from various countries, from Africa, from the United States, as well as all across the entire Caribbean. I like that we can bond over leisure activities, and we can also bond over studying times and get to interact with everyone.
So in terms of the facilities, if you're coming to board, what do you get?
So if you're trying to board at any of the 138 facilities, you would be able to have access to Wi-Fi, to the laundry facilities. You'll have a courteous staff that is there to help with anything you need. Every room has been equipped with QR codes. So if anything is wrong on the flat or in your personal room, you can just send a message and they will try to fix it as soon as possible.
What do you think that they can do to improve the experience?
Each and everything will have needs for improvement, but I strongly believe that improvement can be done through the different facilities that I mentioned earlier. Everything can be improved because we're a growing number, and each year more and more of us are using the Wi-Fi, using the laundry facilities, so they can be improved over time. But I would also like if we could have some covered seating areas outside, because those would be perfect for persons to study outside of their rooms, knowing that whatever the weather condition is, we can still have a good time outside.
So tell me about the space now. It's so peaceful out here.
Yes, indeed. I mean, this is where a lot of persons come to relax, our guests and even our staff. Can you imagine as a student, you come out here to relax and study?
Yeah, it's nice and quiet.
It is. A lot of them do that. And our staff even take the work outside of the office and come and sit down here. And have lunch also during the days.
All right, so this is just one of several buildings that you have on campus. Tell me about the others.
It is. Our concepts are similar. So we also have the Georgia Lane Hall, and that's closer to the UWI Bowl. Okay, and there are 4 towers there. So it's the biggest of all 3 halls that we operate. And there we host double and single occupancy students. Here at the Leslie Robinson Hall, we have only single occupancy. And over here is predominantly the international students like this hall. Even though some of them are at the other halls, but predominantly this is the hall that they come to. And then we have the Irving Hall. And the Irving Hall is an older UWI hall that we have restored and created into, right now we have there 2 towers. And the setup is similar, but there's more double occupancy at the Irving Hall. So all our hall setups, they are similar. There are just a few things that differentiate them.
You were saying off camera that you're a relatively young company, less than say 10, 15 years, right? But you're already listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Yes.
What are some of the benefits of being listed on a platform like that?
Well, you know, the Jamaica Stock Exchange offers for us a lot of benefits. Predominantly, one of the most important one is the opportunity to raise funds. So the entire Jamaica and international, and whoever you are, you have the opportunity to buy into this company. Yes, if you're an investor, and to share in the fortunes of the company. There's also the benefit of publicity. You get a lot of PR from it, and in addition to that, what you find is that there is networking opportunities because the Jamaica Stock Exchange put on a lot of networking events, and there's also training because it supports its members. with training opportunities, where you have the JC e-campus that you can do training course, for example, in corporate governance, and that helps to equip even your board of directors with the knowledge that they need to help to monitor the company's operations. So there's a lot of benefits from being a listed company.
Why would you encourage somebody to buy your shares though?
138, even though as a young company, if you have been following the news lately, we have been doing very, very well as a company. So, and even throughout the period of the COVID-19 pandemic, which was a very challenging for a lot of us, a lot of players, and especially in the sectors like ours, because we consider that we operate in the hospitality sector. Those are very challenging times. But you can see that we have sustained it. And so as a sustainable organization, I think we are right there, just with any of the other bigger corporations that have been around for a long time. But we have a future, a growth opportunity for us based on the industry. We are the only one of its kind here in the region, student accommodation and housing. And that is very important to us. So this shows that there's a lot of room and opportunity for growth. And so I believe that 138 in the future will continue to be a very strong company, will continue to deliver good results, and will continue to serve the university community and the other stakeholders that we serve in a very good way. So I believe that 138 is very well positioned for anyone who wants to be a part of the company as an investor.
It's interesting that you spoke about growth. What are your plans for the future? Because you've in a sense, come out of COVID standing tall. You're still here, right? Yes. You're doing relatively well on JSC, and you have offerings going into the next semester, ready to go. What's your plan, though, for the future beyond that?
So immediately, what we have looking at, we have some opportunities. We have unbuilt opportunities right here at the University of the West Indies. We operate in excess of 1,400 rooms right now, but we still have unbuilt capacity. Even here at the Leslie Robinson Hall, there is a section that we started to build out, and that has been delayed. So we have capacity to build that out. At the Irving Hall, similarly, we have capacity for further build out. So there are opportunities here for us. In addition to that, we currently house in excess of 100 UTech students, University of Technology, who patronize us. So there's also opportunity for growth in that area to further build out accommodation to house those students. And if you look around Jamaica, we have additional universities. We have one out in Mandeville, yes, and we also have other universities. Even the University of the West Indies operating out in Montego Bay. So there are opportunities locally. And then in the region, again, as I would have said, there's no other operation of this kind in the region. So the opportunities exist to expand to neighboring territories and their universities there to have a similar offering. And of course, internationally, the sky is the limit. We are not restricted to Jamaica and the region alone. So of course, we are eyeing those opportunities. But I want to just say, in addition to the expertise that we have garnered in such a short period of time, that this type of model is not only suitable for university accommodation. There are other type of similar PPP operation that we are looking at right now, which of course I cannot say a lot about it, but there are other opportunities that we are exploring.
Well, the sky is the limit, really.
Yes, of course.
For your market updates in foreign exchange trading for Thursday, May 18, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.10. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.84. The pound sterling traded for $193.22, and the euro sold for $168.88. In GSE trading, the GSE index declined by 2,392 points. The junior market index declined by 17 points. The combined market index declined by 2,387 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,663 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 36 advanced, 46 declined, and 26 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2000 Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Carreras Limited. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 3 million units, Fosrich Company Limited with over 2 million units, and MFS Capital Partners Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, zero securities traded. Zero securities traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, Huawei Trinidad and Tobago says the pandemic has accelerated its business locally, noting that the company in the last year has seen several business deals being closed along with the expansion of its portfolio. Sunulala has the details.
Huawei Trinidad and Tobago held an event on Wednesday to symbolize the partnership between its regional partner, Nexus. The company showcased their different range of products during the event, which provides ICT solutions to businesses. Enterprise Business Director at Huawei TNT, Tudor John, said both companies work in tandem to supply the local and regional market.
So Nexus will engage partners, like our enterprise partners, and they will develop that relationship, and then they would work with Huawei in building those end-to-end solutions.
He added that business has been booming since the pandemic, where Huawei had to leverage its technology when the world stood still. Mr. Turo said Huawei's Idea Hubs in particular has seen a significant demand.
In market data for oil prices rebounded from losses of more than 1% the previous day. Brent futures rose $1.15 to $77.01 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude climbed $1.16 to $73.10.
And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denita Rodney.
You can watch the full feature on 138 Student Living on PBCJ's Outlook on our YouTube channel. Just type PBC Jamaica, then type 138 Student Living in the search bar on the platform. In regional news, in Grenada, new minimum wages for some categories of workers are anticipated by the start of 2024, following a series of successful consultations.
Legal Affairs and Labour Minister Claudette Joseph gave an anticipated January 2024 timeline for the rollout of new minimum wages across some working groups in Grenada, Carriacou and PC Martinique. The minister had previously indicated government's commitment to reviewing and finding a solution to the issue of minimum wage, especially within the public service. During this week's final public consultation, Minister Joseph solidified this commitment.
And we are happy to say that the committee has advanced its work to the extent that we anticipate by January 1, 2024, there will come in force in Grenada new wages for certain categories of workers, some among our most vulnerable employees.
The Labour Minister said inadequate compensation was one of the contributing factors to the number of people living below the poverty line.
One of the ways in which our people, including people who work hard, continue to fall below the poverty line because, despite their best efforts, is because of the level at which they are compensated for their labor. If adjustments are not made periodically so that people are paid a decent wage in keeping with the movement of inflation, the movement of the price of goods and services that are necessary for survival, you would have people working, earning a salary or a wage, but still being below the poverty line.
She expounded on the categories of workers that would be covered under this wage review.
industrial workers, people involved in light manufacturing, garment factories and the like, clerical workers, security guards, domestic workers, caregivers of the elderly, including homes for the aged, and of course we could add daycare workers to that, workers in bakeries and other like establishments, agricultural workers, construction workers, all categories, carpenters, masons, joiners, painters, plumbers, electricians, all of them, steel benders, helpers, shop assistants, workers in the hospitality industry such as cooks, bartenders, waiters and waitresses, vehicle drivers, bus conductors and operators.
Tuesday's meeting was one of several town hall meetings which targeted trade unions, the Employers Federation, as well as employers and employees in a bid to gather public input on issues related to the general minimum wage, as well as the sectoral, local and gender-based wage disparities. The last review of minimum wages was done in 2011. Reporting for GBN News, Beverly Tellisford.
National Secondary Schools Student President Daniel Jordan Bailey is calling on Caribbean Examinations Council officials to quickly update students who sat the 2023 Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate Mathematics Paper 2 examination on Wednesday, on steps being taken to ensure fairness in grading amid allegations of a leak. Caribbean Examination Council officials are investigating reports of the leak of the paper in Guyana. Sources say discussions are being held to decide whether or not there will be a resit. National Secondary Students Council President Daniel Jordan Bailey is calling for a quick update, and she's also calling on CXC officials to strengthen its integrity and avoid such occurrences if allegations prove true in the future. In international news, Japan is hosting the G7 summit in Hiroshima from May 19 to May 21. At the top of the agenda is the war in Ukraine and whether or not President Zelensky will attend in person.
The opening day of this G7 and the agenda being dominated as expected by the war in Ukraine. But the one world leader who's actually been making all the headlines on this first day is not actually here. That's Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, because there has been swirling speculation since the very start of this day that he would actually be attending in person on the last day. That would be on Sunday. It was originally anticipated that he was only going to be making a video address via a remote connection, but then it was widely reported very early on that he would actually be making the journey to attend in person to press the case for more support for his country, not only amongst the G7 members who are widely committed to supporting Ukraine, but also amongst many other world leaders who've been invited here as guests, especially world leaders from non-aligned nations or neutral nations. So it was seen as a very significant development. Then much later in the day, reports from Ukraine itself seem to indicate that it is back to the original plan of just a remote appearance via video link. We are hearing from the Ukraine's Security and National Defense Council that it will be the case. He will not actually be making the journey here. He will be addressing by a video link. Nonetheless, there has still been, the agenda's been dominated. A lot of the discussions have been dominated by the Ukraine war and also support for Ukraine and condemnation for Russia. The new sanctions have been announced, also new measures to prevent Moscow from getting round some of those sanctions. And also they have, G7 members have issued a lengthy statement outlining their position. There isn't anything particularly new there. It is a repeat of the condemnation of Russia, support for Ukraine. But interestingly, there is one passage there that calls for the complete unconditional withdrawal of Russian troops and equipment.
In sports, Cricket West Indies has announced in a statement that the travel and accommodation policy for West Indies' senior women's team will be changed. With immediate effect, members of the West Indies women's squad will travel business class for all long-haul international flights and be accommodated in single rooms for all international assignments, bringing it in line with the policy for West Indies senior men's tours. These decisions were made at the first CWI Board of Directors meeting. In entertainment news this week, Alicia Steele shares a link between the Netflix hit series Queen Charlotte, Bridgerton's Story and the Caribbean.
Welcome to PBCJ's E-News. I'm your host, Alicia, and today we have some entertaining news. Dance Expression is in turmoil after several members left the group. The Red Rose to Gregory concert was a huge success. We'll also be covering these and a few other stories. Stay tuned for more. Dance Expression has lost another member. Shanice Caterpillar, a prominent member of the group, has left. Her departure is similar to that of Stacy, Sashi, and Special Black, who all left in March. These entertainers were the lead star of the hit YouTube dramedy, The Bartender, which was produced by Dance Expression and premiered in 2020. In an Instagram live video on Friday, Shanice claimed that Dance Expression founder Patrick Orville Hall and his partner Shelly Expressions has been speaking ill of her. She has not publicly commented on her absence from The Bartender, but she said that the alleged behind-the-scenes drama has been very stressful for her. She even miscarried a child due to the stress. Shanice went to therapy because of the ordeal, and she said that it helped her to see all in a new light. The departure of Shanice, Stacy, Shashi, and Special Black are a major blow to Dance Expressions. The group has lost some of its most talented and popular members, and it is unclear how it will move forward without them. Red Rose to Gregory was a huge success thanks to the incredible performances of Denise Williams, the Manhattans, J.C. Lodge, Etana, Errol Dunkley, Hezron, and the talented musicians and dancers. Denise Williams blew the audience away with her powerful vocals and her signature pull up. The Manhattans were dazzling with their well-choreographed moves and their smooth harmonies. Etana, Errol Dunkley, and Hezron all delivered heartfelt performances that resonate with the audience. Overall, Red Rose to Gregory was a fantastic event that was fitting tribute to the late Gregory Isaac. The concert was a celebration of love, music, and Jamaican culture, and it was a night that no one in attendance will ever forget. Let's talk about the Netflix series Queen Charlotte, the spin-off of Bridgerton, and give a bit of Caribbean Did You Know? Here goes. Gola Roosevelt, the actress who plays Queen Charlotte in the Netflix series Bridgerton and its spin-off Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, was born in Guyana to a Guyanese father and an English mother. Did you know that? She moved to England when she was 5 years old. Roosevelt is 53 years old and has a long and successful career in theater and film. She has appeared in productions of Porgy and Bess, Macbeth, The Winter's Tale, Romeo and Juliet, Angels in America, Bad Girls, The Musical, and Jesus Christ Superstar. It's a real thing. Roosevelt was cast as Queen Charlotte in Bridgerton in 2019. The series is based on the novels of Julia Quinn and is set in the Regency era of England. Roosevelt is a talented actress who has brought Queen Charlotte to life in both Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. She is a role model for young women of color and is an inspiration to all who see her work. That's a wrap, and I am Alicia with PBCJ's E-News. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoy the show because I did. I would like to give a special shout out to Hair Addictions Collection for my wig. Go follow them on Instagram at Hair Addiction Collections. Their wigs are high quality and affordable, and they have a wide variety of styles to choose from. Thank you again for joining us, and remember to live an entertaining lifestyle.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. Special thanks to the production team, including Danita Rodney and Alicia Steele. Pleasant viewing.